How's it going?
I'm well, Jordan. How you doing today, buddy? Happy Friday.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy Friday to you as well.
What's going on?
Nothing much. So without further ado, why don't we start off and jump right into it?
Well, I first appreciate you and SSBC having me on. You guys are doing great things
Thank you.
with this program, and the guests that you've had have been spectacular. Mitch Modell was very special, and I hope that I can add some value to your listeners, and we can have some fun.
Of course, of course. So I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Jordan Edelstein. I am a sophomore at Syracuse University. I am in the business school at Whitman. I plan to major in finance as well as minor in sport management. For everyone tuning in, joining us today, we have Jason Cole, an awesome guest. He is head of sports and entertainment at Off Court Management, which takes athlete management to the next level. He also worked at Deloitte for 3 years and Abacus Wealth for over 20 years. Jason, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Jordan, yeah, my pleasure. So yeah, I had quite a diverse background with respect to different areas of business. Having studied at Penn State, I got an accounting degree. I then went to work for Deloitte, one of the largest accounting firms in the world.
Mm.
From there, I went to work for an options trading firm doing global accounting. And I realized after both of those jobs that I was not getting the satisfaction and fulfillment that I wanted in my professional career. So I was about 26 years old then.
Okay, that's huge for people, young people especially, to know, because a lot of times people will, have a job or a career that they don't like and they feel stuck. But like you said, you weren't necessarily satisfied and you moved on, and I think that's really awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about off-court management? As head of sports and entertainment, what does a typical workday look like for you?
Well, every day is a different day. If you want to get into the field of sports and entertainment management, you have to be prepared for anything.
Right.
So in my role of off-court management, which I founded last fall, my number one priority was to find athletes and their families and music artists and entertainers, and the white ones that actually are able to listen and trust a third party such as myself coming into their lives, and being their CFO type, if you may. So right. How my day starts is really based on what has come up for my clients over the weekend, over the night before. I try to be available 24/7 for these clients, which is why I keep the client list shorter, because I'm much more a believer in quality than quantity. And so in my role in a given day, I handle their personal banking transactions.
Okay.
I help them with their budgets. I help coordinate taxes with their teams, and accounting and payroll, handle any of their credit card activities, any of their credit as far as loans go, as far as looking at real estate contracts and business contracts. That every day is a different day. Every day there's a different story. And with COVID and what that's done to professional athletes, has definitely had an impact on on this industry. And we've now had to prepare and react, and now proactively look forward on what we're going to do next, to manage this pandemic for their financial lives.
I'm really glad you said that, quantity over quality, that's what you preach. And I think that's what makes you so great, because your clients are able to get the attention from you that they need to manage their finances, which is really important, because there's plenty of others in this industry that, have all these clients, but they can't be 24/7 like you are. So I think that's really special. Now, what does the process look like from the time that you are looking for a potential client to once you get to working with them every day?
Well, it's a really good, that's a really good question. In a lot of cases, introductions to clients come from centers of influence and referral sources, as well as the athletes and their families themselves. That is a referral from an existing client in any business is always the strongest referral, because those individuals are basically giving you a good seal of housekeeping, so to speak. And I try to really build on those relationships that come from the sources that I mentioned before, because I know that they're also going to be able to get on board quicker, as far as be educated on what I'm doing, and they'll either get it or they won't.
Right.
And they might not get it now, but they might want to get it from me later or someone else, and they might never want to get it. And in most of the in what happens to most of these professional athletes across, the major 4 sports in this country, is when they retire, they have to work, not because they want to work, but because they have to work.
Right.
Because they have either had advisors that were working with them not in their best interest, more looking at them as a transaction instead of a valued client. They've taken advantage of these clients. Everyone is trying to sell them something, from jewelry to homes to invest in car washes. I've seen it all, raw land. And these players need to hear the word no.
Right.
And there's so many reasons why they can't, but the percentage that listens and banks their money, they have the ability to do something really special and create multi-generational wealth for their kids and their grandkids, as well as making a difference in their communities and with their philanthropic activities.
Exactly. That's extremely important. Now, are there any qualifications in potential clients that you specifically look for to either, you want to pursue that client, or maybe to avoid that client?
Well, certainly avoiding the client. And I wish I would have took many, many cues over the last 15 years. Avoiding a client, the signs are there from the start. Just in the way they respond, lack of response, lack of attention, not listening, but not really hearing what you're saying. Clients that when I reach out, or prospects that when I reach out and talk to other people in the industry, because it's a very small sports and entertainment industry on the professional side, with agents, business managers, financial people, marketing people.
Right.
And I hear stories of these athletes and the same names come up. It gives me a lot of caution, but I still want to talk to everybody, because everybody's story is different, and every advisor working with them has, a different style. Most of the time, when I'm identifying new clients, it's from an introduction that comes from a personal friend or someone locally, or an agent that says, hey, this client of mine is going to need a financial advisor. It's me going through all the relationships I have, having been in the Cherry Hill, New Jersey and Philadelphia area for, 35 years. I can go to a lot of people to look for, who that next person, who those players may be, and get a sense of their families and their coaches really early on. Sometimes as early as high school, which is now actually getting to be late, given the ages keep going down from when these athletes can become professional athletes and put themselves in the draft. But it's neither an art nor a science, and it can be extremely frustrating, but wonderfully rewarding at the same time.
I think that's really great that, even if you may hear negative things about, a potential client, you at least give them the time of day, and, you get to talk to them and hear, their perspective and what they had to say first before you make a decision on, whether you want to work with them or not, which I think is really great. And it's really important as well. Now, some clients, they're bigger or smaller than other clients that you may have. So, how does your approach differentiate, or does it not differentiate from one client to another based on, the popularity and size of that client?
That's a really good question, Jordan. There is a lot. The one thing that's not different is the servicing. So if a client has zero money to invest versus a client that has a lot more money to invest or ask for my guidance on,
Mm-hmm.
the relationship is the relationship, and I want to make sure that what their needs are, oftentimes they don't know. They just know that something has to change, whether they're getting older, they haven't put money in away, they had some sort of significant family event that's caused them to think more about their own mortality. And I look to do, I look at it as I have an a la carte menu of services. And for some, the most important thing is just to, begin with putting a budget together.
Right.
And making sure they file their taxes, because I have expertise in tax planning. And for a lot of these guys that play overseas, specifically basketball, a lot of these they haven't filed taxes since they've been playing overseas in all these years, and they don't even know that has to be reportable income.
Right.
As we got up higher in the earnings side, tax planning becomes even more important because of the different state rules for taxing athletes,
Mm-hmm.
which is, differs by sport. So there's tax issues to consider. There's also, your ability to build your credit.
Right.
And until you make more money, or until you are able to establish credit, some of these athletes have no credit. We then have to figure out, okay, what do we need to do in order for you in 3 years to be able to get a home?
Exactly.
At this price? How much do you need to put away? And what credit score are we shooting for? And how do we get there? For the larger athletes, they're looking at, bigger things. You're looking at insuring, artwork, helping them find coverage for helping them find their coverage for, any of their collections, whether it be wine collections, whether it be sneaker collections,
Right.
Overseeing any of their business entities that they may set up in order to protect themselves from creditors,
Mm-hmm.
And helping plan long-term for the kids, and what are they going to need to put away so that their kids, once they finish college, can have a nest egg or some type of protection in place to get them started in their futures, because many of these athletes came from nothing.
Right.
And their children are not going to know. They have everything.
Mm-hmm.
So in one generation, everything has changed. So you really need to be on top of, the family dynamic, and
Right.
also building relationships with the spouses and also their kids and also their parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important as well. You can't just look at the client. You have to look at their family and the people that care about them as well, because they're also very important. And if you can treat those people well, I think that, the client's perspective, just they're really happy to work with you if you're caring about everyone else as well that's around their circle. Now, what is one failure or mistake that you have made, whether it was pursuing a client or with one of your clients on your own, if you're able to share one of those?
So as a human, and wanting to be as successful as I can,
Right.
there have been several occasions over the years where I would have pursued a student athlete,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have built those relationships up over time. and when the time for them to make a decision, not only on their representation, but as far as their financial and business management goes, you know, as you get closer to the end of whatever season you're talking about, call it college football or college basketball, you keep hoping that you're still in the game, so to speak. And you do whatever you can as far as contacts and text messaging and reaching out to the families and, you know, just being as transparent as you can. On some occasions, actually twice for the same athlete, I thought I was going to be fortunate enough to work with him when he came out of playing football at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
I was not able to. He was a late round draft pick. Then he ended up playing in Canada, and he destroyed it in Canada. I mean, he set all these records in Canada, and by year 4 or 5, he came back to the NFL.
Okay.
I met with him and his family again, and I thought this time I nailed it. Went to his home in Maryland, and for whatever reason, for a lot of these clients, when they don't hire you, it's not like most that's not like most client professional relationships. Maybe you'll get a text, and that's exactly what I got. And it turned out that the athlete ended up playing, still is probably 12 to 14 years in the league, has made over $100 million. And there was so much that I could have done for him, not only before he came out, or right when he was coming out of college, but 4 years later. And those definitely burn. And what you have to realize in this field is, because the competition is so harsh,
Right.
and there's a lot of great competition. There's a lot of great people in business management, financial management, representation that are amazing. Mm-hmm. And you have to take the small wins. So you're not going to hit doubles and triples every time. I've been fortunate enough to work with a handful of lottery picks in the NBA, a handful of first round draft picks in the NFL. And even in those situations, their story didn't go where it was supposed to go.
Right.
Whether it's injury, whether it's what happens on the court. And as a result, or on the field, those relationships and the work that you're doing for that client can significantly change, you know, at the drop of a dime. And you need to be prepared for that as their trusted advisor.
Right. Now, you talked about, you know, competition in the industry, and just from some of the things you said, you know, treating the family well, you know, the people around that client circle, as well as, you know, quality over quantity. Those are things I can already tell that you do that differentiates yourself. But can you maybe add to that, to, you know, things that differentiate yourself from others that are working in this industry?
Totally. Well, number one, I'm independent. So I rely on myself to make things happen. And given that this is my off-court management company was a startup company late last fall, I've had to make things happen in an extremely difficult environment. Mm-hmm. Especially with the unknown of what's happening with these players and whether the leagues are going to continue, whether they won't start, whether the players are going to get paid all of their salary, none of their salary, prorated. So I need to be on top of all of those different types of things. I'm constantly looking over for the NFL and for the NBA. I'm looking at collective bargaining agreements. I'm not an attorney, but I look to find specific clauses that may impact my players. I look to one of the other differentiators that I do is I try to find angles or opportunities on the tax side that I don't think most CPAs are utilizing for their clients. Right. So I do a lot of reading. A lot of the tax returns that I see from athletes, I see that some of the opportunities for them to save taxes internationally and domestically have not been utilized.
Hmm.
So, I spend hours upon hours working on a client's, tax projection or tax return. And I don't charge any more money for that. The practice is built on charging a monthly fee, and
Okay.
that fee is agreed to. It's agreed on with the client and with myself. I know the pricing in the industry, and at the same point, I want to make sure that it's worth my time, and I want to make sure that the client is going to take advantage of the value that I'm going to show them. So I would say it's my availability, it's my expertise, it's my ability to multitask, which is you have to have in this business. And I think the other differentiator that I have is that I also have an entertainment side. I know that you had posted the link on finance, media, lifestyle. So I have an entertainment partner, John Nodillo, and he's based in Burbank, California. And John and I have worked on some film and TV series in the past. So when there are music artists, when there are actors, producers, athletes that want to get into sports, what is the right way to do it? How do they look at where they want to be in entertainment in 5, 10, 15 years when their careers are over?
Right.
And then kind of working backward and figuring out what steps do you need to do. And a lot of athletes get burned because they throw money into projects just to see their name on the screen, but nothing comes out of it. And, there have been dozens of athletes that have done it the right way while they're still playing. Russell Wilson is one, Kevin Durant, of course, LeBron James, and they build teams around them. So myself and John, we work to bring in the right people, consultants, other film producers, to make sure that they're getting the right information.
Right.
And that, I think, is extremely different. We have, so I'm on the East Coast, he's on the West Coast, and that also gives us a lot more flexibility.
Mm. Now, obviously, it's two different industries. You have the sports industry and the media industry. What are some similarities and differences that go into managing different types of clients within those two industries?
Real good question. In the music industry, it's about getting to, striking deals early on, the talent with the labels without giving everything away. So that's one thing that you have to be really careful of. Then you have to be able to track, their tour money versus, merchandise money versus what monies are coming in from streaming media. So that's dealing with the artist side. On the TV side, you're talking about, actors that start off that are making, very little money per episode or per show if they're on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have one big hit, and then suddenly their pay goes from $5,000 a show to $500,000 a show. And you have to prepare that client and his family for what is coming next, so that when that money does come in, it is not wasted, but you have a game plan in place. And actors can go up and down, with jobs, especially now in production. So those actors that made all this money in the past year, now they might not be filming anything for a year. So they need to figure out, how am I going to live currently on what I have. With respect to, on the athlete side, you have a limited period of time to make your money. And in most of the leagues, most of it isn't guaranteed. So most of the players look at their contracts and say, oh, I'm going to make 60 million over 5 years. Well, maybe 18 of it's guaranteed.
Hmm.
So what if that is the only money that you have, and then you get injured, you can't play out the rest of your career? How is that 18 million going to last you and your family your lifetime? And what spending habits you need to develop now to prepare for
Right.
what's going to happen down the road. Um, so that's another exciting part and challenging part of being in the business of dealing um, with the media side and dealing with the financial life management side. It's a good question.
So we have one more question, then we're going to move into a short Q&A from some of the people we have tuning in. Last but not least, do you have any advice for, the young people trying to break into the industry, whether it's, the sports or media industry?
I totally do. I would say that the more experience that you can get being around people in the industry, whether it's an agent, whether it's a lawyer that works with media or production companies, or has athletes as clients, or relationships at any of the sports franchises, getting a job in a ticket office, helping with community relations. This business is a lot about relationships and building those relationships, because it's a small circle.
Right.
As a junior in high school, as a senior in high school, I would try to find an opportunity to work with an agent, or a business manager, or an accountant, or a financial expert that works with these athletes, so you can understand how how this business works, and you can start developing more of a knowledge base of that you can bring forward both to college and in your professional career. And you likely will change majors several times in college, and you likely will change jobs or firms or agencies many times in your career. And you just have to be prepared for the unknown. That would be my that's what I would say to the young students. All they need to do is Google NBA agencies, football, NFL agencies, sports media lawyers. It's all out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the resources are out there. And if I can be a resource to anyone, they can find me on Instagram at offcourtmgmt. They can also find me on my website, which is www.offcourtmgmt. And I'm happy to be a resource and try to connect anyone to get involved in this industry and motivate, because these athletes need a lot of help, and they can't do it on their own, and they certainly can't do it when they're just listening to their families and the hanger-arounds.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that offer. To everyone tuning in, listen to this man, contact him, reach out to him. He's extremely intelligent and wise, and he can help you if you're trying to break into this industry. Why don't we move into a little Q&A? We have a couple questions.
Go for it.
Jack, he says, many athletes come from nothing. Their first check is the most money they've ever had in their life. Have you had any clients that experienced this situation, and is it difficult to show them the importance of financing their money?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the check, the first checks that come in, the biggest surprise that athletes have and their families is that 40+% is coming out for taxes. As well as if you live in states like New Jersey and California and New York and Connecticut, you might see 50% come out. And in the case of the NFL, you sign a non-guaranteed contract, you're a rookie, and your contract is, say, $600,000. Very little to no signing bonus. You get your first check. Not only is the number cut in half for taxes and union dues, etc., but you're only getting paid 17 times. So those payments of 17 payments have to last you 52 weeks. And I understand as you're a 20, 22-year-old, and you get this money, and you know, you want to buy this car and you want to have this nice apartment or whatever it is, and you want to buy the watch. You have to do it methodically,
Mm-hmm.
and you really have to wait your turn. You've made it. You've made it. You signed a professional contract. You played NCAA. You've made it at the same point, but that at that point, what you did in the past goes away. What happens now is your new story, and you need to now act like a professional adult and role model for your community. And you need to make smarter choices. And when athletes have come to me after their second, third contracts, and they have very little money, they don't have life insurance, they really don't have too much, typically, other than a really great sneaker collection and some nice backpacks and some jewelry,
Yeah.
a couple cars. You can't go back and reinvent the wheel and then make that money
Right.
back. It's gone. So you need to move forward, and that's really difficult for athletes to see at such a young age.
Yeah. That's why it's so important for them to have someone like you, you know, to manage that. I once heard a story from Deion Sanders on ESPN, and he was like, a lot of these athletes, when they get that check, you can check out the door because they've never had money. That check's going to be gone in a week. But, you know, if these athletes or clients have someone like you to manage that and, you know, guide them down the right path and direction, they don't have to throw that check out. You know, they'll have it invested in great spots and saved up so they have money in their bank when that next check comes in. Now, we have one last question in the Q&A. It's from Isaiah. How do you convince your client not to invest in something that they want to because it's too risky of an investment?
Isaiah, that's a really insightful question. It's gotten easier for me over the years, but it's very difficult. The athletes are constantly being quote unquote sold investment opportunities by anyone they run into, and they could be, you know, investing in in Dunkin' Donuts, or you know, a record label, or you know, an accounting office, whatever it is. And through my experiences and what I've read and what I've seen, I need to go through those horror stories with those players, and I need to say, hey, did you know that T.O. lost $600,000 in building a hotel in Alabama where the guy really was a fraud?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you see that? You know, it goes on and on. You know, with the athletes and the names, a lot of them high profile, that it seems too good to be true. You know, a steady investment, a stable investment for a lot of these athletes is owning real estate, you know, apartments where you can collect income every month, or you can buy and fix and then flip it. That is more steady. It's real estate, it's tangible. When you're talking about real estate development, when you're talking about privately held companies that have tremendous amounts of risk, that are still in the fundraising stages, a lot of times you don't know what you're going to get, and probably 8 or 9 out of times you will lose your money, despite how good the story sounds. And I let my clients know that, to me, those types of investments are speculative. So if you have $100 to spend or to invest, let's pick a reasonable number that you want to put into that speculative, illiquid type of investment.
Right.
And then let's break it down into where you're going to do real estate. You know, what other things do you want to do? And if you want to do real estate, you want to put $100,000 to it. Well, if you do it in one deal, then you're out. You know, you're out until you make, you know, et cetera. And it's really tough. But they need someone, whether it be me or someone else, that is their financial quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that really cares about their well-being and situation, not that has you know, some type of some type of biased interest to steer anyone, investor, professional athlete, into an investment.
Right. Well, listen, Jason, thank you so much for being here. This was an extremely insightful episode. You have so much great knowledge and information to share. Everyone that's tuning in, thank you so much for being here. And any
Thank you,
Syracuse
Bill.
athletes, reach out to Jason if you need help with your finances, please.
Um,
Jason,
Thank you. Thank you, Jordan. I really appreciate what you're doing at SSBC. I'd be happy to come on again. And if you want us to bring on other guests and athletes, let's do it.
yeah, thank you so much and take care. Please stay well. We'll talk soon.
You got it, buddy. Thanks for having me.